Hey, all you Arizona lovers. This is the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose.
And I'm your producer, Brittany.
And here at Finding Arizona Podcast, we collect the local stories of all entrepreneurs and from around the valley. So join us at findingarizonapodcast.com, where you can hear every episode and see it as well at
YouTube. Like, subscribe, and comment below who you want to see next on our show. And when you're ready to start your podcast, you found the right spot. Found House, your next podcast production company.
Now, let's get back to the show. Score big with SeatGeek. Whether it's concerts, sports, or live events, SeatGeek has you covered. Use code FindingArizona to get a fantastic $20 discount on your SeatGeek tickets. Catch your favorite live events hassle-free with extra savings. Visit SeatGeek.com and make every experience unforgettable. Welcome back, everybody, to the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose. As always, we bring in very special guests every week, and today is no different. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to introduce you to Erin Conrad. She is coming to us from the Conrad Music Studio, and we're going to talk a little bit about her history with music, with education, with teaching, and a little bit more. So welcome, Erin.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. You are someone that, again, we were talking off air. I was reading your bio and I was super impressed, super encouraged by just being able to see someone who has a musical talent background and education too, just to see how far it can go and where it can lead and all the different accompaniments.
Yeah.
Hope I got that right. Accompaniment. But yeah, it's like really encouraging for a musical background to see how much you've accomplished and see that, really span a lot of different places. So I'm encouraged and excited to talk to you. So I'll ask you the question that we usually ask everyone in the start of our episodes is, can you give us a little bit of your origin story and how music has come into your life and what it's done to you up until today?
Yeah. So I started as many kids start. I started in third grade. That was when it was offered. When I was in school, I know it's a little bit different now. And just for your guests to know, that was in 1995. Don't do the math on how old I am.
Don't do the math. Yeah.
So that I started when I was in third grade, and actually, I didn't even want to play the violin. I wanted to play the flute. And band was not offered that young. And then I wanted to play the cello because I thought it sounded so pretty, how high and how deep it could go. And my mom was like, nope, you're going to play the smallest instrument because that's what you're going to be carrying.
Yes.
Okay. So in hindsight, my mom kind of chose the violin for me. And I really took off playing the violin. I wouldn't say that I was a prodigy child by any means, but I was very good. And my teacher had mentioned my mom to get me some private lessons. So I actually took private lessons from a Dr. Carolyn Bro. She's actually still located here in Arizona. She's in Scottsdale, and she does still teach. And she's an amazing woman, has taught me so many things. And then after that, I kept playing. I auditioned for the Paradise Valley Community College Orchestra when I was in sixth grade. And then in middle school, I actually became concertmaster at the community college. And I continued playing for the community college and my school orchestras all through up until high school. Yes. So that's how it started when I was playing the violin. My mother, she wanted me to continue playing the violin and maybe go to school for music. I had other plans. I had actually joined the Marine Corps right outside of high school in 2005. Yeah. And I was in the Marine Corps for about 2.5 years. I got a medical discharge. I tore all the ligaments in my knee. So I ended up getting a medical discharge. And I came back and I had no idea what to do with my life. And, I wanted to retire in the military. That was my lifelong goal. And I ended up meeting this woman, and she's actually still here in Arizona too. Her name is Nikki Park. She's amazing. She had a studio, and I met her through my church to help me with my resume. And so we're sitting down for coffee. She's helping me with my resume. And then we get to the questions of, well, what kind of hobbies do you have? I was like, well, I play the violin. I did it since third grade and I dabble at it still sometimes. And she goes, no way. I own a music studio and I need a violin teacher.
Perfect.
It was
Perfect moment.
it was crazy. Yeah. That wasn't God coming down and speaking to you. I don't know
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah.
It was amazing. So
And
that's kind of how
especially at
my
a
journey
pivotal
started.
point. Yeah, at a pivotal point of seeking, something in your life to help, continue onward and looking
Yeah.
for something else. And, that's definitely something that I can relate to with especially my own kind of journey through the podcast realm of like,
Mhm.
what do I do next, or what is this thing that is now taking more and more time and effort and challenges and stuff like that to like, yeah, definitely
Yeah.
have a few relatable stories there. But I would love to pick at some of what you told
Sure.
us, and
Yeah.
then in the early start, what a I don't know if you talked to your mom about this as of like in recent time, but for her to just be like, look, I'm choosing the lightest, smallest instrument for you to lug around because there's no way that I'm going to help you carry a big cello out
Yeah.
or give you some kind of complicated metal pipe to like blow into. And it's just like, there was a simple explanation to the choice that she gave you
Right.
to pick from, but yet it has affected you on this ripple effect. I don't know if you've talked to her about this or anything like that, but it'd be funny to kind of get her perspective of like, look, I just chose the violin
Yeah.
because
So actually, my mom, she actually passed away in 2009.
oh, okay. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's okay. But I kind of think of it like, maybe that was her speaking to me somehow
Yeah.
of like, this is where you're meant to be. This is
Yeah.
where you're meant to be going. So,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
really beautiful to think about it in that sense. Really, it's just interesting to me
Mhm.
because for her it was an easy decision where it was
Right.
like I'm trying to help my daughter out and giving her an instrument that's super light and super easy to carry around and something that she can hopefully enjoy playing.
Yeah.
But now it's been such a pivotal point in your own life that it's just like to the juxtaposition of like this choice for her, but this effect for you as well.
Right.
So
It's
that's
crazy how things end up turning out.
yeah.
She always told me, she was like, you are going to go some places with this. You're going to go places. And I was like, nope, I'm going to the Marine Corps. And here I am. She proved me wrong.
Is- and that's the other thing as you this is kind of continuing on with your timeline.
Yeah.
You experience and kind of had this whirlwind adventure of like people encouraging you to continue forward with your education with this instrument and seeing something unique with how you play it and how you go about it. So there must have been a level of at least a little bit of passion from your end to want
Oh, yeah.
to kind of understand the instrument, keep continuing to practice it. I know from my own perspective, as soon as I really got down my first song in the guitar, like playing the guitar,
Hmm.
I was hooked. I was a little bit hooked. I would
Yeah.
be practicing in my room after school and as many times as I could in between classes, things like that. Where I don't know for you in particular where you stood, but I would love to
Yeah.
kind of hear from your perspective, what was it like to hear the encouragement from the adults of like, something special and you have a gift here, continue your education? What was that like to hear those
Yeah.
types of things and to also experience the level of, you know, rise that you went through to, because for me in particular, I did one composership kind of competition class situation that allowed me
Hmm.
to go to the Grand Canyon Music Festival in high school
Oh,
and
cool.
have a string quartet play my music. And that was beautiful
Yeah.
and fun to do. So I'd like to experience those types of different opportunities.
Hmm.
What was it like for you as a youngster?
I actually really loved it.
Great.
So my mom, she was very strict with me because I was at a high level of playing at
Mhm.
such a young age. she made me practice for an hour a day, every single day.
Awesome.
And I will say that there's times, where as a kid that I'd be like, I don't want to do this today. Like, we all have those moments. So I did too, as a kid. But there would be time. I mean, I would lock myself in my room and I would just play for hours. Back in our day where we had boom boxes and CDs, I'd put in my Suzuki book CD that we had, and I would play with it for hours until I could perfect the song that I was playing. Nice. Because I just loved it so much. And I really loved every minute of it. I mean, I played, I practiced about an hour a day every day. I took private lessons once a week. And then I would go to PVCC and, play with them. I can't remember how long the class was, but I really want to say it was like 3 hours every Thursday night. Yeah. And that was so much fun to play in an orchestra with adults too. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed all of that. Yeah. And I know my mom would have loved to have seen me go to college for it, but, obviously I chose different things, but all those experiences really did still shape who I am today as an adult and as a teacher as well. And so I literally love playing. I still pick it up and, just play on my own. If there's nothing else to do around the house, I'm like, you know what, I feel like playing right now. So I'll just go to my office and I'll pick up my violin and I'll just start playing. And my kids see that, my kids hear that, and they want to play too. Actually, I got my youngest son, or my 9-year-old's violin in the background.
Oh, is that it? Right there behind, right behind you?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
right behind me. It's really tiny. So he just started playing. So he's just started learning this last month and he wants to play. And actually, I teach a couple of his friends from school. So,
nice. That's always fun.
Yeah, I love it. So.
Okay, so now moving on to kind of your time in the military, just a quick question of like, I know that there are musical bands, but I don't think that there's like an orchestra, like string anything in the military, right?
To be honest, I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
I didn't go into the military for that. I went in for communications, but
I was just curious if there was if there was any opportunity to do it, would you have if there
probably would have.
Okay.
Yeah. I probably would have.
Because I mean, I know that like there's the bugle corps. I think that's what it's called or something like that with the horn instruments or something of the such where it's like, I know from my kind of remembrance of history that they did have kind of a band kind of.
Yeah, I know that they have a band.
Yeah,
of some sorts. I don't really know all the details, but I don't think they have an orchestra though.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Sure. I don't think they do. So I can't imagine, a violin player being necessary or even a part of that kind of realm. So I was just kind of curious if there was an opportunity, would you have taken it had there been one? And
I think I would have.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So I'll move past that and now going into your realm into the education field and wanting to, I guess, teach. And I would love to hear from your perspective of like, one, why education and teaching might mean something or what it means to you to do that.
I'll be very honest with you. It didn't start off with a love of teaching.
It's a very unique individual to want to love to teach and things like that. So I'm just curious. It
was never something that I was like, oh yes, I want to do this. And even when I started with Nikki and her studio, it wasn't like a love of like, oh my gosh, I love this so much. I enjoyed it very much. I actually was in school. I was taking advantage of my GI Bill, and I was in school for healthcare. Yeah. And while I was teaching on the side, and then I ended up moving, and then I started my own studio just to kind of make a little extra money. It wasn't even anything to like this is going to be my career. And then we learned that my 9-year-old had some educational disabilities, and from a very young age, he entered into something called the PANDA program in Scottsdale. It's like a pre-K that's paid for by the government to help with disabilities. And so because of that, even though I graduated my bachelor's with honors, in healthcare because of his disability and the times that, we had to go around to pick him up, drop him off. It was not going to be ideal for a 9 to 5 type of a job.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I really like teaching. I like the students that I have a lot. Like I really loved them and felt like my students, I only had 4 at the time.
Yeah.
And they were like family to me. They were my kids too. And their parents were friends, they became friends.
Yeah.
And I was really more family oriented because I was so small. And I was like, you know what? I really do love this. It's nothing that I ever saw myself doing, but I really love having these kids in my home and bringing them into my family, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to do potluck recitals at my home, so the families would bring food and we would eat and the kids would play. And I loved everything about it. And I said, you know what? This is me. Healthcare was obviously, that was just not for me. My mom was a nurse, which is why I was like, I'll go into healthcare. But I was like, you know what? That's not me. And this teaching this instrument, this is me. And that was when I decided that I was going to actually full on make a music studio and take on more kids and just go down this path of teaching because I just loved it so much.
See, I think that's
how it started.
I think that's where we share a lot of our commonalities too. It's like this opportunity or this thing that we had no inkling of, like it being going to be a big part of our lives, and then snowball effect of like it building and to the point where it's undeniable, it's right in your face. And so that's definitely my route of like, I just really wanted to share other people's stories and how they came across what they're passionate about and why they do what they do. And it's really become this thing of like a legacy piece where I love to say it's like I always say this, I'm like, I'm a little bit of a librarian of these stories of like, I collect, I make sure that they're, put up in a nice spot so people can see them and encouraged to read them. And I just have all this huge library of conversations that I've had throughout the years. And it's not something that I thought was not something that I was not going to be a part of it for a very long time. But now it's something that I can't imagine not having as part of my life. And so I think that's what's great about these stories, that I learn a little bit about the individual, but I kind of learn more about myself and more about what I need to do, not only as an entrepreneur, but as a parent sometimes, or as an individual, those types of things that kind of really reflect upon me and what I can do to better myself.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's fun. I like it. It's definitely something that I'm highly encouraged about all the time, meeting individuals like yourself of like, I can do this, or I can, I really need to think about this, or all the big questions of life and what we do for work and stuff like that. So I really do want to kind of get a little bit more personal with you and just kind of like getting some things about your family. I would love, you brought up your 7-year-old and him wanting to play, and then his
9-year-old.
9-year-old. Sorry. Your 9-year-old.
That's okay.
And is he the same one that had to go to the Panda program as well?
Yes.
And so your level of like how you teach, I would love to understand how that works with your own child and just how you go about educating your own child, because my 3-year-old, he's shown interest in piano. He likes musical. He loves drums. I'll tell you that he loves drums a lot more. Percussion is definitely something that he loves to do. I think that comes from my side of the family, just musical and things like that. My dad is, very passionate about music. And so I would love to understand like how you encourage educating them, how if you are one-to-one with them, how you go about, kind of like patience and all of these different aspects of giving your child something that you are passionate about to them.
Yeah. I think I'm probably like every other parent where it's really hard to teach your own kid something, but you can teach other kids.
Yes.
So I'm in the same boat as that. I'm just a normal mom. I never pushed playing anything on my kids. And actually, my 7-year-old, he actually wanted to play the violin originally, and he did. And then he resisted, and I was like, okay, well, I guess it's just not time, or maybe it's just not
Yeah.
for you. So
Yeah.
I let him stop. But my rule is kind of the same as I have that I set for my families that come in with the parents. Everybody always asks me, how long does it typically, take to learn, and how long do you like people to play for in the beginning? And my rule is always 3 months.
Okay.
So when my 7-year-old did it, I said, you have to do this for 3 months.
Yeah.
And then after 3 months is up, then if you don't want to do it anymore, you don't have to. And that's how it is going to be with my 9-year-old too. We just literally started like a week ago. So,
Awesome. Yeah.
so he's very brand new, and the reason I do that is because it takes about 3 months just to learn how all the basics, just how to hold the violin, how to pluck the strings, where your fingers go. And all of that stuff is very tedious, and it's not very fun. I will say it's just not, because you're learning these notes and you're not really playing any songs. Every single student that comes in, they're like right off the bat, I'm going to play Lindsay Sterling. And I'm like, maybe in 10 years.
I love that. That's the modern.
Yes, I want to play Lindsay Sterling. And you know what? And sometimes I'm like, you know what? I wish I could do some of her songs too. Because her songs can be pretty intricate. But there are some basic levels of some of her music that a student could play, but it's typically after they've been playing for a few years. But yeah, so that it takes 3 months, and so that's kind of how I do it with my kids. Patience. It's so much easier to be patient with somebody else's child than it is your own.
Yes.
Again,
yes,
typical mother. Our string is just much shorter with our kids.
Yes, no, I'm the same way. I was just like, I'm like, hit this one. Come on, buddy. You hit the E key, like, and when he's playing the piano, I'm like, you got it. You're close, so close.
Yeah. So I have to remind myself. I have to be like, okay, I teach them in my office just like I would any other students. I'm like, okay, I'm not mom. I am teacher right now. So I'm going to be in teacher mode, just as I would for any of my other students, to have that level of patience, because, we are definitely more patient with other people's children. And I wish I could always be that patient with mine, but I'm a normal person. And, but yeah, so that's how I kind of teach them. And the same as it goes for any of my other students, if after 3 months, if he is just not having it, then he can quit after 3 months. But he's at least got to put in that initial work to learn it.
Yeah.
Because typically after 3 months, they're starting to play simple songs, and they are just amazed. Usually they're like, I can play Mary Had a Little Lamb, or I can play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Yeah. And even within those 3 months, we even start doing little duets too. And they're like, they think it's the coolest thing ever. And
that's cool.
It's amazing. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to provide at least a semblance of like having the understanding, the difference between parent mode and teacher mode, and separating those two places so that you can help better them. I would love to also talk about kind of your meeting my significant other was very special to me, because I was so nervous to introduce them into my life of podcasting, because I was so embarrassed to like share like, hey, because it was significant at the point when I was recording and we were dating. I would not be able to do certain kind of dates because I would have to go, record with, a client and just have to take up a big chunk of my day on the weekends. And so having to introduce her into my world of like, I do this podcast, please, she was very interested because she liked podcasts. And so she listened to all of mine, the day that I told her. She like basically binged all of my episodes and was like, oh, I love it. And that was a sigh of relief. What was it like for you to kind of not only introduce your significant other into the world of music and like what you do for a passion, but then also to, I don't know where you guys were at in your relationship, but when you took on the studio and becoming an educator, oh, puppy. But yeah, like what was that conversation like when you said, "Hey, look, I'm gonna start teaching more, and I think I'm gonna need a space where
Yeah.
I'm going
Um,
to teach."
he's been so supportive. I mean, we met before I had just started teaching and like just before. And
Yeah,
so it was just so minimal though. And I was going through school full time. And, but he was supportive of it. And then we made that decision together after I
awesome.
graduated college on what I was going to do. And so we made that decision jointly.
Yeah,
And I taught when we lived in Scottsdale, I just taught out of my living room.
yeah,
And then we decided to move to Gilbert, a little bit more family area for our kids. And one of the things we were looking for was an office for me
yeah.
to be able to teach out of. And it was mainly so that my husband and my kids could kind of still do their own thing in the
Mhm.
rest of the house.
Yep.
Because in our old house, it was just in the living room and the kitchen was right next to it. So they literally had to be like gone or in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And so that was a little difficult, but he's been so supportive. It's been crazy. There has been some bumps in the road and rides that we have taken financially to help me move my business to where it is now. And
Yeah.
even when you're nervous to be like, hey, I really want to do this, but it costs X amount of dollars. I want to talk to
Mhm.
you about it. And he's just like, he goes, yeah, do it. And he goes, if it's going to help you further in your business, whether it works out or not, it'll be a learning curve. And,
Yeah.
for your business to grow in any sort of a way, just I'm all in.
Yeah.
And it's been really cool to have that, even when I'm the one that's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. And he's just like, why? Just
Yeah,
do
I
it.
get it. I get it because that's something that I've struggled a little bit with, that communication of like taking a bigger step forward where
Mm-hmm.
I'm the creative, like I'm the high, like, let's do this, let's do that. I have this idea, I have that idea. And she's very much the businessy brain side where she's like, okay, I love where you're going with this. I think this is a good idea, but let's take steps to like make sure that we're not over exerting ourselves or over, doing something where we can't come back from. And so she's the yin to my yang, the business to the creative side that is me. And so I really do appreciate that when she's able to kind of show me that, yeah, you can do it, but let's make sure we
Mm-hmm.
have goals set that we can make sure that we can reach so that we don't feel like we're diving in too quickly into something that we can't come back from. And I've always needed that. I've always kind of had
Yeah.
that person a part of my life, whether it was my dad before her, and it was helpful because he always gave me insight into things that I wasn't seeing right in front of me. So that was really great
Yeah.
for him to do, but also now my wife is that person for me that I can lean on. And it's always scary to kind of, yeah, take that big leap and say, hey, like we're gonna spend a little bit of money here, or a big
Yeah.
budget, a big chunk of money here. But I think we've done it to the point where our communication now is a lot of meetings where, or a lot of dinners where we get very in depth with what we're passionate about, but also what we're hoping to achieve out of these passions. So that's definitely
Mm-hmm.
something that we typically do, is like we'll have a nice little date dinner and kind of discuss those moments or those pivotal things that we're seeking to achieve here and
Yeah.
there. And it's really been great, that bit of it. So thank you for sharing that much
Yeah.
of like your family life and how you go about it. I would love to kind of ask really quickly. So has your family seen you in concert at all, or kind of
Mm-hmm.
performing on stage and stuff like that? And what has been
Yeah.
kind of their response to seeing you really go at it?
They think it's fun. I have played with the Scottsdale Philharmonic Orchestra. I know that this last year they kind of changed and now they're called something else. But I had played with them for about a year. I actually have injured my shoulder.
Oh no.
Don't ask me how because I don't know. Um, but I did somehow, and I see a doctor and a chiropractor, and so I'm not able to hold up my violin
Oh
for very
no.
long periods of time.
Yeah.
So I don't play with an orchestra right now, but I'm hoping that as I heal and I get better, that I'll be fine. Yeah, I have no idea how I did it.
I
Getting
definitely,
older, right?
yeah, those injuries creep up on you. And that's definitely, it's good that
Mm-hmm.
you are taking the route of like, I'm going to slowly heal back
Yeah.
and be aware of these. And that's something that I'm worried about too, because I run a lot. And so my knees are
Yeah.
getting sore where they used to not get sore as much. And so I'm doing the kind of rehab weight, like, be not as, um, heavy on them
Mm-hmm.
as much, and trying to rehab them so that I
Yeah.
can use them more and more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish you luck on getting that back, because I hate seeing people with injuries that
Yeah.
especially affect what they do
It's
for a
getting
living.
so much better, and I'm hoping that next year I'll be able to play for the
Yeah.
Gilbert orchestra
Great.
that's out here. I know that they have one, so I've already gone to see them with one of my
Great.
girlfriends, but to check them out and see, what kind of songs they play and how they
Yeah.
sound, and you kind of do that to see where it is that you would like to go. So,
Mhm.
but I've also played with like the Women of Arizona Orchestra.
Yeah.
There's one. It's called, oh shoot, it's on the tip of my tongue. Um, oh man, I can't think of the orchestra that was called, but it was
Totally
something
fine.
like Sounds Around the Valley, something like that.
Yeah.
And that one was really fun. We actually played with singers that were singing.
Cool.
Yeah, it was like Disney songs, and they were
Yeah.
dressed up in full Disney costumes. They literally looked like Elsa, and all those other
Yeah.
characters, and
That's
that was a lot
awesome.
of fun. So I've done a bunch of things, but just taking a break this last year and
Yeah.
focusing on getting my shoulder better so I can hold up my violin for longer periods of time.
For sure. I think that's
Yeah.
really wonderful. I mean, you sound like someone who is just really on it and really passionate
Yeah.
about, getting out there, doing the things that you need to do for your work and what you're passionate about. So I have high hopes, and don't doubt
Yeah.
that you're going to get back in there and
Yeah.
really make a splash. And I would love to see you in person, like to see you play in person. That would be cool for me,
Yeah.
like experiential wise. We've only actually ever, I think, met a handful of other artists, like, a
Mm.
band and a solo singer songwriter, and a duo. And so they do concerts that we were able to go see in person throughout the valley. Like there was one
Yeah.
downtown, there was another one. And I'm always so surprised to see them go from this. Some of them are a little introverted, some of them are a little
Hmm.
timid, but when you're doing the thing that you love doing, it just
Yeah.
flies, and it shows how much
Yeah.
you are different when you are on stage and doing the thing that you do best. And it's just really cool to me to see
Yeah.
that, because it's like I got to see the one side of them, and then I got to see this cool
Yeah.
side of them too. And
Yeah.
it's beautiful to me to see those two things come together. I do kind of pivot towards the future, and you kind of brought up a little bit about what you're planning on doing with the Gilbert Orchestra.
Hmm.
Are there other anything that our listeners can help you maybe achieve, or that you want to achieve, or that you're goal setting for the future, so that our listeners maybe can help you out, or seek you out
Yeah.
in that manner?
Well, playing wise, not really. I just kind of do my research on where I'd like to go. But as far as reaching my business out to other people, I would love to be in connection with some school teachers.
Awesome.
Absolutely, school teachers.
Yeah.
Or anybody that's even in like the homeschool world, is what I would really love to have. I know a lot of school teachers. I don't know the percentage, but I do know that a lot of school teachers are actually band teachers.
Oh,
So
okay.
some of the orchestra teachers are also band teachers.
Yeah.
And again, this doesn't speak to everybody, but I know some band teachers, they can struggle with teaching an orchestra, with the fine things like the bowing, like the different intricacies of using our bow
Yeah.
and all that technique. And that's kind of where I come in to definitely help, as well. I know it's just,
Like a consultant. Yeah.
yeah.
I like
So
that.
I do like to go into schools, if I'm ever wanted or needed.
Yeah.
I've offered to some schools to come in as just like a helper one day that, maybe they want to work on bowing and technique, and I can come in and just kind of take the violin players and work on bowing and just kind of technique, or whatever area it is that they're wanting to work on, whether it's
Sure.
shifting technique or, position or just, anything really.
Yeah.
I am a substitute teacher. I'm a registered substitute teacher at Gilbert Christian Schools.
Nice.
So I've gone in there a few times to help sub if my schedule allows it. And so that's been really fun. I have done all of their orchestras. Actually, I've subbed for their high school, their middle school, and their elementary school. So that was really cool to see those different ranges too. And I really like that insight. So
I love that.
Teachers.
You're very much, putting yourself out there. And I think that's going to be beneficial to you to kind of make those connections and help your network out in the long run of your business. I have high hopes because this, again, just from my own experience, like, I'll tell you one thing. I love watching that mini doc series on Disney about the last repair shop and how they go about fixing, because they're a part of the LA school district, and basically they help repair the instruments for all the kids. And it's just so unique to see the story behind how these instruments are repaired, but also kind of the story behind the students in the school district as well. And so some of those aspects of, like, how to educate through the music program and through all of these different intricacies of, what people do to help get the job of repairing, but also help kids, want to keep playing and feel embraced by the musical world. And it's just really beautiful to see that, because I think it is necessary for schooling. I mean, I think musical education is something pivotal. I believe that if you can find something outside of the STEM work and you're passionate about it, you can continue your life in education that way, and you can help you, in some sense, make sense of the world as a whole through music and through musical education.
Unfortunately, music is just kind of, the bottom of the totem pole usually in schools, depending on their funding. And I know some schools don't even have orchestra. I've actually got a few students at their school, they're come and take lessons from me because their school doesn't have orchestra. And I think that's kind of sad that they don't. And music really, it does play a huge part in learning. And it really does. I mean, when you play, you've got to learn how to basically read in a sense, the names of the notes, and then math to be able to do the theory of figuring out how many beats equals what. And then when you blend notes together, like dotted half notes, like, well, I have to add this much. And like, how do you do that? My students start learning fractions, as young as age 5.
Exactly. And so it's like, it's those things that, again, you don't see it firsthand, or unless you are doing it firsthand. And it's very vital to not put music on the back burner. It has its warrants, it's things that it will help educate students who aren't used to, or who don't want to do just the basic mathematics and reading and STEM work, that this is a creative outlet that they can learn through the process of musical theory and musical timing.
Absolutely.
So I really do believe in that. So continue to work onward, Erin, and it's just really great. Can I ask you a really nerdy question? I would love, no, it's not any too nerdy. I very much love seeing, I'm kind of a history buff, and I love seeing those old violins. Have you ever played, what is it called? The Verticelli? Something like a very old violin, like something that's like 200 years old. That's totally fine. I just was like, I don't know if you are aware of these like old violins that people somehow find or are being passed down to them. Have you seen anyone in the Arizona?
I have not that I know of. I will have to say, I think that knowing a lot of knowledge about the violins and how they're made, it's kind of a misconception that a music teacher would know everything.
No, totally. No, I get that. And that's just something I was like, I'm always curious because some musical people don't have as much history of the musical world or the instruments themselves as some others who are
There's definitely some, that are novice, that know everything. And I said, and I've talked with people like that when I was at the Scottsdale Philharmonic Orchestra, and they are amazing. And I'm just like, how do you know all of this? I'm like, I can play, I'm a pretty decent player, but I'm just like, they know so much about these things. But I honestly, whenever I have questions about my own instrument, or even about instruments in general, I needed to go get a new bow. Yeah. And I had gone to the music shop, and I like to go to those like mom and pop shops. I don't like to go to like big brand names. So there's this one shop that I go to, and it's Andrews Violins. It's in Mesa, and it's locally owned. Yeah, it's really small, and they sell just really great instruments. And but anyways, getting a bow and just talking about that, they talk about the different types of wood that it's used to make. And I'm like, how does all of this matter when I'm playing? Because I'm just know how to play. And they're talking about the different woods, and how the different woods can make different sounds, the different weights of the bow. And I'm like, oh my gosh, now this is even harder to choose a bow, because I have to sit here and think about the weight of and all of these things. And I was like, I never really knew all of this until you go to buy one for yourself and you ask all these questions. I mean, I would have been the one that just goes in there and tries a couple bows and is like, okay, this one seems fine. This one works. And then they tell me all of the intricate stuff about, the different types of wood and the weight. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, now this is so much more for me to think about when purchasing my bow. And so, I mean, I go to those people, the experts.
Yeah. Now again, it's like, it's basically you're taking an introductory course into carpentry and woodworking.
And they're awesome people, and they're so patient.
No, absolutely. I just, again, I love the in the weeds conversation, like kind of like, again, educating on the sounds and what the importance of those do. I think it's so fascinating, and I get really kind of like excited about it, because it's just something that is, I don't know what's exciting about it, but it's just like something that gets me. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like that, I didn't know that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Because I have students all the time asking, what kind of violin should I get? I'm like, I don't know. You've got to go down there and you need to try them out. I can't tell you. And to be honest, I don't know all the name brands.
Exactly.
When I got mine, I tried a bunch, and I found the one that felt right for me. So I can't tell people that.
You can step up your game by saying, look, you're now becoming, this is the Harry Potter part of the book where you get to choose your wand, like go out and seek your wand.
Yeah, basically. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Erin, for giving us, again, a little bit of your time on this weekend and sharing your story. I really do appreciate it. And I wish all of your students the best of luck in what they're going to pursue, and your own child. I hope that he sticks with it and feels encouraged to keep going. So this last bit of our conversation is going to be you just letting us know where we can find you online, any events that you want to help promote, or anything in between. Let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah, so you guys can either call or text me. My phone number is 480-702-1629. Or you can email me. It's erin@conradmusic.studio. Or you can find me on Facebook too. I'm everywhere.
Awesome.
You can look at my website as well. It's the www.conradmusic.studio as well.
Awesome. Thank you again, Erin. And before we go, we do have an outro for ourselves. You can hear every episode of our podcast at findingarizonapodcast.com. All of our social media handles are under Finding Arizona Podcast. And if you want to send us an email, that's findingarizonapodcast@gmail.com. And we end every conversation that we have with our guests with a kisses, hugs, and belly rubs to our four-legged friends. We will see you next time. Bye, everybody.